My Roman chicken uses bone-in chicken thighs slowly braised in a flavorful sauce made from white wine, peppers, garlic, and herbs. This is nothing like the tomato-based chicken cacciatore that you're probably familiar with. It's so much better. Hi everyone, welcome to today's episode of Let's Celebrate TV. I'm your host, Peter Lee. Today, our celebration is all about chicken. We're making Roman chicken. This one is for you, Dixie and Phil. Now, what is Roman chicken? Well, in order to answer that question, let's talk cacciatore. Chicken cacciatore, or hunter style, is found all over Italy. But for a long time, tomatoes were not. Now, most Americans know the Southern Italian version with tomatoes, but Roman chicken is from Umbria, which is in the country's center near Rome, and it's made savory with white wine, peppers, capers, olives, and herbs instead of tomatoes. So let's get started. I have here a nice frying pan, one of my favorite cast irons. We're going to heat just a tablespoon of olive oil. It's really all you need. We're heating this up because we're going to brown our chicken. So let's talk about the chicken. I'm using today bone-in chicken thighs. Now, I took the skin off and I trimmed all the extra fat. Why did I take the skin off? Well, this is going to braise and the skin will brown, but then the chicken won't brown, and we want that extra flavor. Plus, we want the sauce to soak into the chicken meat. So taking the skin off will allow that to happen. We just want to season this chicken with some salt and pepper. Pretty easy. All right, my oil's nice and hot. It's just starting to smoke. I'm going to put these in seasoned side down. Just like that. Good. Now I'm going to hit this other side with a little salt and pepper too. All right, now we're just going to let these brown, so you don't want to move them around a bit. We're not cooking them all the way through, but we want a nice brown, nice golden crust on them. That's going to add a layer of flavor. It's going to add some flavor to the pan too, which we'll need for our sauce later. Alrighty, here we are. I browned the first side. It took about 8 minutes. I flipped them over to do the other side. Gave them about 3 or 4 more minutes. We're not cooking the chicken. We're trying to get a little brown on them, a little sear. Some of it may stick in the pan, but that's okay because it's going to end up in the broth, in your sauce. We're going to remove these. Just like this. I'm going to put it back on the same pan. Now let's start building this sauce. I'm going to add about a teaspoon more of olive oil. You may not have to. You'll have to judge that, but just a little drizzle more. Let's start building the sauce. Now the first ingredient is anchovies.
Anchovies. Why?
Right in. These are just going to melt away and add a real depth of flavor to this sauce. Next up, onions. I have 1 large onion that I just sliced. Pour it right in. Next, I have 2 red bell peppers. You can use any color. You can mix the colors if you want. Give this a stir. We're just going to let this soften for a few minutes. All right, our vegetables are starting to soften. Let's add some more flavors. Garlic. It's Italian food after all. I have 4 cloves that I just minced up. Next is rosemary. A little unusual. I have 2 sprigs. We can just plop these in whole. They'll be fine. Sage is next, another one you might not expect. I've got about 6 leaves here. I just chiffonade, which is just cut them up into little slices. Put this right in. Now we're going to add a little bit of salty and brightness with our next ingredient, which is very common in Italy. I have capers. I have a whole tablespoon. Next is a little more salt and a little more brine. I have a half cup or 100 grams of pitted olives. Now, I'm using today Kalamata olives. That's what I like, and it's what I get. But you can use any kind you like. Just make sure that they're in brine and that they're pitted. You don't want to bite into a pit when you're eating your chicken. We want to stir this. We want to start seeing these vegetables caramelize just a little bit, which actually is happening already because my pan's nice and hot. All right, my vegetables are starting to look good. Starting to see a little caramelization, especially on the onions, which is just what we want. You don't have to brown them all, but you want to start seeing just a little bit. Next, we're going to add some wine. We're going to deglaze the pan with it. I'm going to use 4 ounces or 120 mils of one of my favorite dry white wines. And we're going to give this a little stir because we want to scrape up all these little brown bits in the bottom because that's where all the flavor is. Delicious. Now we need to add a little more liquid. I'm going to add some chicken stock. Low sodium because we have the salt from where we salted the chicken, the olives, and the capers. So I have, again, 4 ounces or 120 mils of low sodium chicken stock. Pour that in. Now we're going to add our chicken back to the pan. Just nestle it in among all these vegetables and herbs. Just like that. All right, there's some juices on the plate. We'll put that back into. All right, now I'm going to cover this, but before I do, I'm going to give it a little hit of pepper. We have a lot of salt. Let's add a little pepper to balance it out. All right, cover on. I'm going to bring this up to a boil and then reduce it to a simmer. And we're going to let this sit here and simmer for about 25 minutes. And what we're looking for is our chicken to be 165 degrees Fahrenheit or 74 degrees Celsius. And here we are. We're all ready. Now we let this cook, simmer away for about 25 minutes until we reach 165, actually 170 in our chicken thighs. Then I took the cover off and I let it simmer uncovered for another 10 minutes or so to let that sauce concentrate down, reduce down, thicken up a bit, and soak into that chicken. So I'm going to cut the heat. This looks wonderful, and I wish you could smell it. Now it's time for the tasting. I have a little bit of pasta here. I found some really fun, different colored pastas. I'm just going to sneak one out. This is our dinner later, so Philip won't mind. I'm just going to put this on here. Just like that. And I'm going to spoon some of this sauce and the vegetables over. Now notice, this is not thick like you might think a spaghetti sauce, but it's very concentrated flavor. All right. Now, we'll sprinkle of parsley for prettiness. And because I want one last pop of brightness, and because I've already tasted this for seasoning when you weren't looking, I want just a little extra acid on here. So I'm just gonna give it a little squeeze of lemon. Just like that. Now, let's give it a little taste. If I can get in here without making a mess, here we go. Wow, very tender. Wow. That is really, really good. It's very complex. The chicken is nice and tender. Almost fall off the bone tender. And then you get all this brightness from the olives and the capers and that last hit of lemon. And you get the freshness from the parsley and the sweetness from the peppers. It's all going on at once, and it is delicious. I need a little wine to wash it down. Now, as I always tell you, this wine here is the same wine that I put in here. If you're not going to drink it, you don't want to cook with it. So as always, we will see you on Tuesdays for our regular episodes, Fridays for basic skills or our cocktails, and every other Sunday for our live streams. Now I'm going to go put this over some more pasta, serve my husband his dinner, and while I do that, I want you to watch some of these episodes over here. So until next time, cheers.